Hi all, it's Rio CloudSync. In today's session, we will look at configuring authentication session management within the Microsoft Entra admin console. Session management, or session persistency as it's now called, sits or resides within conditional access policies. However, you use the Microsoft Entra admin console to access conditional access as a service. What I'll do is I will take you to the conditional access policy pane, and with that I'll give you a bit of a background on session persistency as it stands, how we can configure session persistency within a conditional access policy, and some of the known limitations. So if we access the Entra admin console through the likes of entra.microsoft.com and we select protection, you'll see there's an option for conditional access. Alternatively, you can search at the top conditional access and it will take you to the same pane. If you saw my last video, you would have saw the video on authentication context labels, and we did go through the process of creating a conditional access policy. Anyways, once you've selected conditional access, it will bring you to the conditional access pane, which is just a high-level dashboard in terms of any existing conditional access policies you have in place, and if you're monitoring or reporting of any existing policies which have been enabled or set to report only. And with that, you do have the service management pane down the left-hand side in terms of creation of name locations, the authentication context labels I mentioned in my last video, and some terms of use, etc. So if we access policies, and you'll see the policy creation pane in terms of creating a new policy, creating a policy from a template, i.e. Restricting legacy authentication or enforcing multi-factor authentication with the use of OAuth 2.0 or uploading a custom policy. And we can also simulate the use of said policy as and when we create it to make sure the output is correct. So what we do, we'll select new policy and I'll just select yes on this, and it will take me to conditional access. Oh, it may be that funny enough, my token has refreshed, so I did have to re-authenticate at that given time. And with that, it's taking me to the page in which I will create a conditional access policy through assignment, targeted of resource, and the associated access controls. When we look at sign-in frequency, sign-in frequency defines the time before a user is asked to sign in again when attempting to access a resource within your organization. And with that, we may want to extend that, we may want to reduce that time frame. Sign-in frequency as it stands is a rolling window of 90 days by default. However, we can reduce that. It may sound alarming not to ask users for a re-authentication or password. However, it's just as alarming someone re-authenticating or providing their details to a threat actor of some kind. So while I give you a bit more context, let's go through the process of targeting either a user or a device with session management. So if we go to users, we can even select all users in terms of everyone in my current Entra ID directory, or formerly known as Azure Active Directory, or we can select specific users. Okay, in this instance, I'll just select all users just for testing purposes, and I can exclude the likes of a break-glass account or a particular directory role or external users from a B2B perspective. In this instance, I'm just going to select all users. Then I'm going to select target resources. Okay, in this principle, I will just select all cloud apps, but once again, you can select individual cloud apps. There is a limitation in terms of browser persistency. You do need to select all cloud apps for that to work. Okay, in terms of session persistency, it doesn't matter. You can either define a particular app or you can select all apps. And once again, you can exclude. Conditions may be, okay, I want the device platform to be Windows or iOS or Android. I may want the user or device to sit in a particular name location, a geographical location. If I'm using the likes of identity protection with the use of Entra ID Premium P2 licenses, then I can use user risk and sign-in risk as well. However, just to make things simple, we're just going to leave conditions alone and we'll go straight to session controls. So once we're at session controls, we can see the box for sign-in frequency and persistent browser session. In this instance, we're going to focus on sign-in frequency. So if I select sign-in frequency, I've got a periodic reauthentication kind of custom field, okay, and I can customize this as and how I want to. So I can select 100 days, and like I said, I can expand that default 90 days, or I can reduce that default 90 days. So if I just wanted it 30 days, I could do so, and I can pick, do I want this days or hours in essence, okay. Microsoft have recently introduced the option for every time authentication. Once again, there may be some scenarios in which an organization or a business has a need for every time authentication. For majority of organizations, they try to steer away from this. They try and make user, session experience as seamless as possible, so they don't have to re-authenticate all the time. But once again, there may be, or there is a need for it at some given time. What will revoke a session, in essence, other than setting a sign-in frequency conditional access policy? Well, you can either revoke a session through the likes of the Microsoft Admin Console through admin.microsoft.com by navigating to the user and invoking the sessions there. You can conduct a password change. If the device is incompliant and a user does attempt to access or authenticate on an incompliant device, sometimes that will revoke a session as well. And if the physical identity or user account is disabled from a directory perspective. What Microsoft says, in essence, is, or their default configuration analogy is, don't ask users to provide credentials if their state has not changed, in essence. Sign-in frequency does work, not another limitation, but another indicator you need to understand. It works with OAuth 2.0 protocols as well as OIDC. And if you are using the likes of third-party apps with SAML as a protocol, it will need the use of OAuth 2.0 or OIDC to be able to take upon the use of periodic re-authentication through the likes of sign-in frequency policies. When does a refresh token refresh itself? Well, either when signed in, physically, interactively, and this will only refresh your primary refresh token. It won't refresh an access token in essence. And the primary refresh token, please bear in mind, will refresh after 4-hour time period from when you first signed in. I have got so indicatively, if you look at it this way, the last refresh timestamp recorded for the primary refresh token compared with the current timestamp must be within the allotted time of the sign-in frequency policy you set to satisfy it and grant access to the existing MFA claim. You can look at your current primary refresh token state by opening up command prompt, typing in dsreg command /status. That will give you your update time in terms of your primary refresh token, as well as the expiry. If we look at an example example, if I set the sign-in frequency and I set the periodic authentication to 1 hour. Well, I save that, targeted all cloud apps, all users, for example. If I give you an example, at 12 o'clock, a user signs into their Windows 10 device with a fully Azure AD domain joined device and starts work on a document, maybe stored in the likes of Microsoft Teams with SharePoint, for example. And the user continues to work on the same document on their device for about an hour. That the time will now be, of course, 1 a.m. The user is then prompted to sign in again based on the sign-in frequency requirement within the conditional access policy set by the administrator here. Okay, and with that, you just need to bear in mind that the primary refresh token will will refresh after 4 hours. So don't try and marry up the Microsoft Entra ID sign-in logs with the refresh tokens, because as I said, they probably won't marry up unless you've waited for the lifetime of your primary refresh token to expire and then done a fresh sign-in, then it will do. But if you've got existing claims in access tokens, etc., you will have a discrepancy there. Once again, all you need to do is really press select. Once that's saved, you would obviously select on for enable, create it, assign it to the user account or device, and with that, the policy will take precedence. If you do see in the sign logs that the claim has already been previously satisfied, that is because of the primary refresh token PRT is still active at this given time. Any questions, please do let me know. Once again, this was just a quick kind of catch up with you guys in terms of conditional access. It's a hot topic at the moment, especially with today's vast changes in terms of security and the zero trust model, which Microsoft have adopted from Forrester's years back now. Okay, any questions, please do let me know. Thank you.